All right, so last lecture day. We're doing chapter 12 and 13 today. These sections are on 3 or more groups. So chapter 12 are. You can't fucking write what I'm saying quick enough? Lops? What? That's not what I want. Oh, let's do this. All right, there we go. Like you're supposed to write down what I say. Okay, so it's 3 or more groups. Chapter 12 is like the proportion ones. So we'll do chapter 12 first. There are 2 tests in this chapter. 12.1 is on goodness of fit. Let's just get your StatCrunch commands right out of the way right now. Stats, goodness of fit. And then, what does it say? Chi-square test, which is very unfortunate because the next test is called the chi-square test for independence. This one is like the chi-square test and there's dependence in it. So there's a lot of black there. So that's the first tab. That's the next thing. That's the next thing embedded.
How long does, if I stayed in extra class and I was like, you think like the finality is like long, or would I be able to do it probably in this class after?
Do what?
The review for the file.
I already filmed it. All you gotta do is watch it.
Oh, okay.
It's done. I have it in 2 parts. I'll put a Zoom link up right away. But if you wait till like 6 p.m., it'll be on YouTube and fucking available on your phone easily and shit like that.
So I have like a bunch of questions for chapter 10 that I was like confused yesterday when I was doing it.
How about you wait and let me finish the goddamn lecture? Then we let all these other nice people go, and then I'm willing to stay around and help you as long as you need. All right?
Yes.
Let's do that. So, this is kind of like, we want to know how well does the data we have, does the proportions for each group match what is expected? I'm not writing on myself. Gotta get my. Usually we will have, often we will have the proportions that are expected, like the values. So we've done this before with expected value back in chapter 6. It applies here, but we're going to do it on more than just one thing. It'll be n times p. The requirements we have for this category. In fact, these are the same requirements for 12.1 and 12.2. The requirements are the same. A, all expected values must be greater than 1. Greater than or equal to 1. B, no more than 20% of the groups has a value less than 5. Another way of rewriting this is that at least 80% are greater than or equal to 5. H naught. From here on, many of these H naught, the null hypotheses look a little funny because we have more than three or more groups. H naught here is actually observed values match expectations. HA is at least one group doesn't. The symbol for chi is this. That's chi. When we say chi-square, it's that. It's pronounced chi like the word bi, but with a K. And it's spelled CHI. It's a Greek letter. I just dawned on me a word that fucking we know that goes with it, like chiropractor starts with CHI. I always think Chicago, which does not sound to have the same phonetic start, but chiropractor does, and it starts with CHI. So it's like a chiropractor, chi. All right, so I can immediately tell when John Luke is ready for the next time because that pen falls and his phone is in his hand quicker than a fucking teenage girl on a fucking telephone. They don't go on the telephone anymore, but you know what I mean. All right, so what we're gonna do in StatCrunch, there's two ways this goes. You will always have your observations, always have observed data. That's a must. It's a must. If the proportions are equal, if all proportions are equal for expectation, then that's all we need. We can start the test. Start test. There is an option to click in the test. Cells are in equal proportion. You'll see it. It's a little box that we'll have. And a little radio button, and we'll fill in the button and we'll say, that's what we want. We'll call that B1. B2. If not, we need a column for expected values. Which usually means calculating by hand n times p for each category. And we're ready to start an example when you guys are. So, example, M&Ms. It's a great example for goodness of fit. Made by the Mars Company. Their stated distribution by color is we're going to go brown, yellow, red, blue, orange, and green. The proportions are 13% for brown, 14% for yellow, 13% for red. Blue gets a whopping 24%, orange is 20%, and green is 16%. They are not equal. It's kind of trippy. Even more fun, this is like really only one of the M&M facilities. There are two main facilities in the US that produce M&Ms. One is in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I think the other's in like New Jersey or fucking South Carolina or something. It's on the East Coast somewhere. They have different percentages that they produce in each of their ones, but the primary one is this one. Mateo eats 600 or gets 600 M&Ms. And eventually eats 600 M&Ms, but not until he does the colors. So Mateo's M&Ms are going to get their own count. They're going to get their own column. He's found 83 brown M&Ms. He found 87 yellow M&Ms. He found 70 red M&Ms. There were 130 blue, 134 orange, and 96 green.
I actually would do something like this.
What?
I actually would do something like this.
So an average M&M bag, I want to say is around 70 to 80 M&Ms, maybe around 70 M&Ms for like a regular size bag. This is like 10 little bags or like a big one, like a 1 pound bag. These is, I don't know, I assume the color distribution on peanut M&Ms is the same. That's an assumption though. This is for stated as the plain M&M. I do like the chocolate peanut M&Ms too. All right, so here is your equivalent of your final exam question. No, this is not true. There's a little bit more. Let's figure out what we got to do first. I'll show you what the final exam equivalent is. What we need to do is we want to test to see, does Mateo's bag match manufacturer's distribution? That's our question. This is the question you will get. This is the kind of data you will get. You will also be, and I'll put it here, and we'll fill it in as we get it. You will also be given the test stat and the p-value. That is like a final question. You'll have this information. It's something similar like this. So there's a set of proportions. It may not be M&Ms, but there's a proportions that is expected to be for something. And there's an observed values like Mateo's here. Do the observed values match what's expected? So what we got to do when they're not equal proportions and they're not here is we need a column for expected values. And what we do is we do n times p. There are 600 M&Ms, that's my n. You will not have to do this part of the work for the final exam. All this shit's done for you. So I'm doing 600 times 0.13, and I get 78. And that's the same thing for red, because they have the same percentage. Yellow is 600 times 0.14, and it's 84. We go through and do all these calculations. We get 144, 120, and 96. Okay. So I'm just going to put the names down just so I can make sure I keep track of everything. I'm going to label my columns so they're easier to find. This is observed. This is expected. I have 83. '87, 70, 130, 134, 96. And my expected values are 78, 84, 78, 144, 120, 96. Oops. All right. Why are you so sleepy at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? It's that League of Legends shit again, isn't it?
No, I was up like really trying to. I was looking up videos for chapter 10 for this stuff.
Were you looking at my videos? Or did you fucking go look at some random shit and not watch the lecture videos that I make? I bet you looked up some fucking other people, didn't you? You're gonna watch someone else's shit, and you get confused. Teach you
Well,
shit.
then I watched yours, and then it was alright for 7.1. And 10.2, I was like, and 10.3, I just got off. I was like, I'm going to sleep. Because it's 3 in the morning by the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, you need rest.
I was like, this makes sense in the morning.
All of it, chapter 10 onward is this hypothesis test.
Sweet.
We're doing it again right after we find fucking test stat and p-value. Hopefully, after seeing it for fucking 3 or 4 days in a row for 3 hours a day, the steps will like at least somewhere be in that brain of yours. And it should get easier. Okay? So for this one, we're going stats, goodness of fit, chi-square. I gotta tell where my observed data is. Now, this is where I was telling you if they were all like the same value, like if all the colors should have showed up the same amount, you'd click that and you wouldn't need an expected column. But M&Ms aren't like that because, well, it's Mars Company. So we have a column for that. We put it in there. And they give us a chi-square and a p-value. I'm going to write this down. And then we're going to do pretend this is like a test question.
Is our chi-square basically like our t-stat?
Yeah, it's the equivalent. So the chi-square is like the t-stat. So I wrote them down. So this will be like what you get on a question. You won't even see the expected. You'll see like there's something that has some sort of distribution. We have some observed values. These are the proportions that are supposed to be the distribution. Does it match? And your job will be to go, okay, I see this question. First off, identify what it is, what type of test this is. If you've got more than 3 percentages, this is a goodness of fit test. So you're going to say, this is a goodness of fit test. You could even put GOF if you like. Then you need to say what H naught and HA are. H naught is, in this case, Mateo's values match Mars distribution. And HA is Mateo's values do not match the expected distribution. Then you should compare p-value and alpha. My p-value is 0.515. My alpha is not stated, so I will use 0.05. And p-value is greater than alpha. So that is a not too low scenario. Not too low is do not reject H naught, do not support HA. Our statement is always about HA. So you may be inclined to say that Mateo's values match Mars distribution. Don't. There is insufficient evidence to support the claim that the M&Ms differ from Mars' stated distribution.
Did you say you were gonna give us the T-stat and the p-val?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that was 12.1. That was one of the forms of proportions we do for 3 or more groups. The next one we've got is the chi-square test for independence. I really wish it had another name that was better, but this is really what it is. We're testing for independence. In fact, the name kind of helps you with H naught and HA, as you'll see in a second. Your StatCrunch command is stats, tables, ooh, contingency, with summary. So this is generally the one that has the full fucking table. The biggest table in the homework set or in the practice one is more than likely this problem right here, the chi-square test for independence. You will have a table with data is organized such that we've got categories as rows, groups as columns. And since categories are a row, one of the row has row labels. Row labels are categories. So when I say groups, these are your different populations. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4. These are our different populations. H naught. We are testing for independence between rows and columns. Rows and H naught is rows are independent of columns. Or columns are independent of rows, or rows and columns are independent. That's probably a better way of saying it, because it sounds like one is checking for the other. I'm going to go with the latter one. That's a better way of saying it. HA is there is some form of dependence. I'm going to start looking up some data set. I got a data set in here. Just got to load it up. Jones Hepe. What hops up when I do that? There we go. So in the StatCrunch, what do? This is what you're going to see when you go to that list there. When it asks you to select columns, This is where you put, you choose the columns with the data. No, not the labels column. There's actually a box for row labels. Row labels, that's where you tell it the column that has the row labels in it. You're also given the option to do a display. The display is less necessary. As long as you get these, you can get the p-value, the test statistic. But the display has some cool options. One of them is expected count. Expected count would show you what it should be if independent. Independent. In fact, all of the display things show up as parentheses. You'll see it on the table when we do it. Another cool one is the contributions to chi-squared. Here, the bigger the number in parentheses, the more it's affecting the outcome. More effect. And then you'll also see you can choose between row and column percent. This is easier just to point out to you what it is. It's kind of neat. What I'm willing to do for you in the final is write down the 10 categories on a piece of paper on the projector. That way you don't have to panic on remembering what they are. Okay,
Appreciate
That's
that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
that help?
Thank you.
Wait, what?
Oh, you were gone, we were talking about like, I'm worried about not being able to remember the categories,
Oh,
so,
It's gonna be helpful.
be great.
It's something good.
yeah, sorry, I
What
don't
the
like.
fuck am I gonna do with you?
My mom says the same thing, bro.
Yeah, the tech or
It doesn't surprise me. Your mom says that, your dad does too. What am I gonna do with you?
It's worse when I drive them around, we're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh my God. I bet you have a great imagination, don't you?
Yes.
Do you like, are you like artsy and shit like that? I could fucking tell.
I have like multiple drawing pads just filled from this summer.
You have multiple what?
Drawing pads just filled from this summer.
Fucking bring one on Monday. I want to look through it while you're taking the test. Totally. If I'm grading tests and I'm happy because I'm entertained by cool art, that's only a win. Think of it that way,
Ideas.
You have to, because it's.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I could bring probably like Cause one of them's like finished, it's like just like a landscape kind of thing.
You can tell them, because they're like, when they're not paying attention because they're thinking about other shit. And if it's clearly not like related to what matters right now, which is passing this fucking class. So he's thinking about something else. It must be imagination based. He's got his next picture, like, what am I gonna draw today? I'm gonna draw fucking Hefe, pissing me off again. Talking shit. I guarantee he's got a picture of me fucking drawing in one of his pads being a jackass. I probably got a fucking donkey ears and a fucking tail on me. Looking like one of the fucking guys on Pinocchio.
Wow.
Now he's like, nope, now it's in there. Now it's in there.
That could be his final. He just draws that. Wait, he just.
I've had students draw pictures on their final. I usually give extra credit for good art. You fucking sketch me a good picture and bring it, I'll give you extra credit.
Do you have any like bands that you like?
Why's it gotta be a band?
Cause then you could do like the album cover.
I like the Rolling Stones. I like video games. You know I like video games, you know I like superheroes.
Make him like Zelda.
I play Zelda. I like, my favorite game series is Dark Souls though.
I love Dark Souls.
How do you not pay attention to me in class?
No, I did. We talked about Elden Ring and all that, remember?
Okay, good. Because you looked all fucking surprised when I said it right now.
Well, because Dark Souls and there's Elden Ring and then there's Bloodborne. There's like 3 different games in my opinion. They're all
very, fight mechanics are similar, but.
similar, but the stories and the themes are like completely.
Yeah, the only one I really know the story and I get even partially is Elden Ring. The Dark Souls games, there's no fucking story. They just drop you in the game and you start doing shit.
Oh, there's
And
stories.
there's little tiny fucking like excerpts that one-line sentences you can find all over the place. You gotta kind of fucking write them down and piece them together into a story.
There's story, but it takes like 12 hours just for a video of trying to get understanding.
Yeah. What you're really doing is you're doing a survival apocalypse game. That's really all it is.
That and Doom. I love Doom.
Doom, I don't like first-person games. They make me nauseous nowadays.
My favorite first-person shooter.
All right, let's get done. Mateo's got baseball to play. So, we are going to look at an example. I'm loaded up on the screen right now.
If you go to the game, it's the last game of the COS League.
It's fucking like 108 outside today.
I mean, yeah.
I
it's
can
like,
guarantee you I will not be there.
you can watch one inning, because the game starts at 3. It's not 5 this time.
Do I have to get out of my car? Is there a view of the stadium from my air-conditioned seat?
Well, there's shade.
No.
No.
Baseball lasts all fucking fall too.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be on the team in fall?
Well, I'm gonna be a senior. Like,
Then I
this
guess
is for,
not.
like COS.
Are you coming here when you graduate?
If I don't go a 4-year, then probably.
I strongly encourage you to choose a community college over a 4-year first, not just because it's cheaper, but because the teachers are fucking teachers.
Mm.
You go to university, they are all paid to do research. That is what they are hired for. They are hired because they're great researchers. Teaching is a secondary part of their job that some of them, it's clear, they aren't any fucking good at.
So basically, you're telling me is like what they're teaching. We're basically teaching ourselves because they're just.
Some of them you are at university level because they're like hard to understand. You tend to get more teachers that are international where their fucking accent is hard to understand. That's a fucking
Yeah,
bitch.
it's hard.
Combine accent with a not necessarily good teaching skills because that's not their job. That's just like, that's like chores in the household, something you have to do, but you don't want to do it. COS teachers, we all chose to be here because we like teaching. Every community college is like that. So you have people that that is our passion. Now, the longer they've been teaching, the closer they get to the fuck them all. Fuck them all mentality. Eventually, students break teacher. Now, you all break us. Eventually, at some point, we stop caring because students are so apathetic. A majority of students, most classes do not have a 50% pass rate unless the teacher is shitty and they're passing too many fucking students. because the students don't care. And eventually, you can only see so many people not give a fuck about their future before you're like, it's a paycheck. I'm not there yet. That's why I have Zoom hours on Saturday and Sunday. I'm getting there, because how many people have fucking shown up this entire semester on Saturday or Sunday morning? One person for one question, and it took less than 5 fucking minutes. I sit there for 2 hours, no one ever shows up and asks a question. Not once, not one of you even just stops in and goes, I don't have any questions, Mr. Jones. I just wanted to fucking say hi and say, how's your day going? None of you. The more I think about it, the easier it's going to be to give out F's on Monday. I hope you got a good picture.
Say that.
All right, so
I know, jeez.
there's more pressure, right?
Jeez. I'll put up the notes for you guys, but I'm gonna tell you because I'm not gonna do my Zooms.
You already know that's fucking bullshit. All right, so like I looked up Jones Cafe. We're doing 12.2, and then I'm gonna do 13.1 in a second. Where is it? Where's my mouse? There it is. All right, so we're gonna do the like it, love it, gotta have it category. So some COS students, we'll come back to this in a second. This is where my data is though. Some COS students that worked at COS. Well, let's try that again. Some COS students that worked at Cold Stone Creamery. Wondered if gender had an impact on ice cream scoop size. With the data below, test their claim at, oh, fuck it, let's change it up. Let's go with alpha equals 0.1. And I will write the table here. We have gender. We have men and then women. And we have like it, which I think is small. Love it, which is medium, and gotta have it, which is large. Here's what they found. 63 men said like it, 86 said love it, and 150 said gotta have it. Of the women, 105 said like it, 79 said love it, 54 said gotta have it. And I'll treat this like this was a test question. We will write what the test stat and p-value is in here, just like it's a test question, but we gotta do the calculations first. We'll do that together. And we'll walk through how to answer this question like it's a final exam question. Now, if you look at we're trying to see if the columns and the rows have any impact on each other. Sometimes you can look at this and get some intuition and go, I already know what's gonna fucking happen. Looking at this data, do you think there is a relationship between gender and ice cream selection? And if you do or do not, why?
Yes, because the numbers
What about the numbers?
are different. Or all in men, in the number of people that ordered
that specific size increases with the size increase, whereas with women, it decreases as the size decreases.
That seems like a reasonable assumption. That's a good intuition. A lot of women chose small, a lot of guys chose big. My theory is all these women are still like dating or trying to get dates. All these women are already fucking married and don't give a fuck.
Or
And the guys, I have no explanation. I don't know. Like maybe these are the guys that work out, and these are like most guys. Like a lot of women like try to, from what I've noticed, tend to eat less than they really want to, because they don't want to look like pigs. It's ridiculous.
I don't understand it.
I don't get it. I don't think any like straight guy gets it. I don't think the gay guys get it either. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask my gay friend. I got some gay, but the people I play D&D with are gay guys. I'm gonna ask them if they get it.
I don't think the girls get it either. It's just something that we kind of, it's ingrained in our minds to do.
Is it like society, like every girl on TV is like, you know, narrow-waisted, I gotta look like a model, and so like, I know if maybe it's like a subconscious thing, I don't know.
I don't think it's on purpose. I feel like it's more of a subconscious thing.
Eventually, you get to the point of fuck.
Especially
Right? There's women that are choosing largest.
Hey, that's all right.
That's all right.
They know what you know what
another
you
part
like.
of it too is I feel like if I'm on a date and the guy's paying on the many dates I've been on, but even now, if I'm going somewhere and my boyfriend's paying, or my brother and I will go to the gym and we'll go somewhere afterwards, and if he pays, I'm gonna get the smaller size. Because it's,
You know what, that's right, it's like,
Maybe it's also considerate, yeah.
Yeah.
that is really, you know, this is fun, I gotta pause this.
I get what
That's
I
true.
want.
I gotta pause this because I do not want this recorded. All right, so we're gonna come over here and we're gonna figure out using StatCrunch how to do this shit. So I'm gonna go stats, tables, contingency with summary. You only need this for the homework, because I'm doing all this shit for you. I gotta tell it where my data is. My data is in the like it, love it, gotta have it columns. My row label is in the gender column. Notice that they're not even next to each other on the thing. Gender is my first column over here. Like it, love it, gotta have it on the right, and I got other things between it. They don't need to be next to each other as long as you say where it is. I'll start with contributions to chi-square, and I'll show you all of them before we switch to the other thing. I'm gonna write down the test stats while I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about it. 49.7, and the p-value is less than 0.0001. See the things in parentheses? It's the ones where they're like different than the average. Like the min, the small amounts really, they're not very many. It's got a high value. The min have a high amount of ones that said, I want the large. These have big numbers in them. Same with the women. A lot of them said, I want a small. Very few said, I want a large. Both of them impact the chi-square. The ones that are nice in the middle, the average, like, I just want an average. Who the fuck chooses average, the middle size? I don't know. It just is mind blowing to me. Go large or go home. Or go small, like don't pick a middle amount. But those kind of show us where the impact was, and it makes sense with what we were thinking intuition-wise. We look at it, so sometimes it's clear like that. Looking at some of the other options, I can go do an edit and show expected count. Expected count shows in parentheses what should happen if gender doesn't have an impact. So like 94 guys should have picked small, 92 guys should have picked medium, and 114 should have picked large. Less women should have picked small, down to 74. The medium's still right around where it needs to be, but a lot more women should have picked large if gender doesn't matter. So this also kind of has a way of illustrating, but it doesn't, like the contributions one kind of shows it more. Some of them you'll even see like it says 0 because they're so close to the actual value, it's like it's not affecting it. The fun ones, and the p-value and the chi-square doesn't change, so it doesn't matter which one of those display things you select. Looking at row percent's kind of neat, because in the older one, like the old version had questions that have it, so it might show up in some of your homework. If I look at men, the percentages below are showing me the percentage of men that chose that category. 50.17, over 50% of the guys said, I want a large cup. Under 25% said small. So if you choose row percent, it's telling you what percent of the entire group of men chose each category, and the same with women. 44% of the women chose small. Only 22% chose large, which is kind of neat. It shows you a breakdown percentage-wise. It's kind of like doing the relative frequency thing, but it does it for you. That's kind of handy. You can also get it to do it where it says the column percent, and now you're looking down the columns. Of the people that ordered small, almost 2/3 were women. About half and half of the guys and girls both picked the medium. Of the large cup, almost 75% were men. So it'll break it, you can do the row percent to see how the genders are broken down, or you can do the category percent to see how the categories are broken down. And not have to like do the math and think about it. The percents mean a lot. We all think percent-wise for a lot of shit. We get what like 2/3 looks like, 66%. We know it's like a lot of the pizza. So, those are some fun things to look at on the problems that have it. We have what we have here, and what you're gonna see, this is the kind of shit you see on the exam. So your thing on the final exam is to get this kind of problem, look at it and go, what makes me think this might be a chi-square test of independence? So generally there will be you'll have rows that are labeled. That's a big flag. A lot of the tables, like if you look through your practice final, there are 3 or 4 problems that have tables, but how many of them have row labels? Go ahead and look real quick. Why don't you look? John Luke ain't gonna fucking look, and neither is Mateo. He's like, fuck you guys. You'll find it, you'll know it, you'll see it, you'll go, the one with row labels, it's probably it. I think it's problem 10.
7.
What's 7 about?
Salesperson,
Dealer,
Oh, yeah.
auto dealer.
yeah, before and after the training.
Okay, so that's where you go, which one is it? And
10 makes more sense.
what?
10 makes more sense for the.
10 makes more sense. You'll see the before and after. One of them's got to be a paired test. Before and after is a really good alignment for paired. It's the same person. You have a dependency there. All right, so back to this one. The row labels, you'll find the row labels, one of them, like the other one has before and after, but that makes more sense for a different category. This, you'll end up saying, okay, this is my chi-square. That's first part of your test. Tell me what kind of problem it is. If you're going through it and sorting them out before you actually get to doing the work, you'll have that knocked out right away. Okay? Then we gotta do H naught and HA. H naught is the columns and rows are dependent. So for us, gender and scoop size are independent. That is the null hypothesis. There is no connection. HA is gender and scoop size are related. Or dependent, if you want to use the word dependent. you got your what the test is, you got your H naught, you got your HA listed. Next thing is, we need to make a decision. We base that decision by comparing p-value versus alpha. So p-value is less than 0.0001. Alpha is stated to be 0.1. P-value is definitely less than alpha. It's a lot less than alpha. P-val's too low, reject the hoe. Support HA, which means there's going to be sufficient evidence. Sufficient evidence for HA. HA is that there is a relationship between gender and scoop size. There is sufficient evidence to support the claim that gender affects scoop size selection at Cold Stone Creamery at alpha equals 0.1 level of significance. Any questions on that one? Kiara, you good?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about H naught and HA and how if I said something like gender and scoop are unrelated instead of independent, like
That's fine.
that, okay. No, say, because I'm like thinking about like vocabulary for both of those and like whether or not it's gonna be,
So if you remember the full name of this test,
That's all you know.
chi-square test for independence.
okay, that's right.
It gives you the name in it.
Yeah.
Seeing as how we all just got done celebrating Independence Day this month, hopefully that word will stick in your head, but it doesn't, I will take unrelated. What do you mean, no? What's this? You what?
Nothing, I just saw something else.
You let him fucking stop giving him something to write, and all of a sudden he's off doing some other shit. He's really smart. He's gonna fucking draw a picture of me lecturing and like have students that look like they're paying attention in the audience and like maybe like fucking like graduation caps on their head. And he'll try to flatter the shit out of me for fucking the final exam,
I'm gonna draw 6 figures because I can't.
Yeah,
right?
do that.
They're like, yes, do that. Get the teacher in a good mood, please.
Picture art.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
13.1, last group.
Charlie, yeah.
Maybe I'll break this up into 2 videos. Stop recording,